Mr. Mike's World, where I sit and tell you things about history. So today we are talking about chapter 12, which is about the roots of Islam. And the first couple pages of section 1 is page 354 and 355, so about life in a desert land. We'll be going over that in class, so if you want right now, you can skim over it. Otherwise, we'll be going on to the next page. Now, before Muhammad, many Arabs worshipped many gods. We don't know much about Muhammad, but we know that he was born into an important family in Mecca around 570 AD. And when he got older, he married a wealthy woman named Khadijah and ran her business. And when Muhammad was growing up, he saw a lot of the rich ignoring the poor and not helping them out. And this concerned Muhammad. So one day when he was about 40 years old, he went into a cave to pray. And according to the religious writings, an angel spoke to Muhammad. And Muslims believe that this was when Muhammad became a prophet. The messages that Muhammad received are the basis for a religion called Islam. A follower of Islam is called a Muslim. The messages that Muhammad received were collected and made into a book called the Quran, which is the holy book of Islam. In about 613, Muhammad began to tell people about these messages. Islam has many important places, but the most important is the Kaaba, and this is in Mecca, and it is where a lot of Muslims go and travel on a pilgrimage, which is a journey to a sacred place. Now, what's interesting is that at first, most Arabs did not like Muhammad's message. They wanted to stay in their own religion, and they didn't really like the idea of giving to the poor. So at first, Muhammad didn't have many followers, and some people even wanted to kill him. But the followers that he did have, they moved to Medina, and Muhammad's house became the first mosque, which is a building for Muslim prayer. Now, the people in Mecca still didn't accept Islam until about 630, after years of fighting, and soon after, most Arabs accepted Islam. Muhammad died in about 632. Now, section 2 we'll go over in class, but here is just some of the highlights of it. First, the Quran guides Muslim life. One thing it tells Muslims to do is jihad, which means to make an effort or to struggle, and it says to struggle to obey God. Second, the Sunnah, which is based on the hadiths of Muslims' life, tells the way Muhammad lived, which provide a model for the way Muslims should live. Included in the way Muslims should live is the 5 pillars of Islam, which are the 5 acts of worship required by all Muslims. The 5 pillars are faith, prayer, giving to the poor, fasting during Ramadan, and a pilgrimage to Mecca. Finally, the Islamic law is based on both the Quran and the Sunnah. So we're moving on to section 3. We're talking about Islamic empires. And we'll be going over pages 362 to 364 in class. And if I were you, I would read over it again. Pay close attention to the growth of the cities and growth of the empires. For now, we're just going to move on. First, there was the Ottoman Empire, or Uthman Empire. They had an incredible... They would capture Christian guys and make them fight for them. These slave soldiers converted to Islam and became warriors. They are called Janissaries. A man named Mehmed II used huge cannons to conquer Constantinople. He was so good that they started calling him the Conqueror. And Mehmed the Conqueror is the one who changed the name from Constantinople to Istanbul, and he turned the Byzantine church Hagia Sophia into a mosque. Now, the Ottomans went and conquered a ton of land outside of Istanbul, including Syria, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. The most important ruler was named Suleiman the Magnificent. He conquered places like Jerusalem, and he is the one who built the big wall around the old city in Jerusalem, and he conquered much of Europe. Around the same time as the Ottoman Empire, there was the Safavid Empire. Now, back in the 600s, right after Muhammad died, Muslims split into 2 different groups. The Shia were Muslims who thought only Muhammad's descendants could become caliphs, and the Sunni didn't think the caliphs had to be related to Muhammad at all. The Safavid leaders were Shia. In 1501, the Safavid Empire began when they conquered Persia, and made Shia Islam the official religion of the empire. In 1588, the greatest Safavid leader, Ismail, became Shah, which is a title for Persian kings, and he fought against the Ottomans but never really defeated them. They also took control of much of Armenia, and this empire lasted until about the middle of the 1700s. Now, east of the Safavid Empire in India was the Mughal Empire. They were Turkish Muslims from Asia, and the empire was established in 1526. Now, in the 1500s, an emperor named Akbar started a new thing for Muslim governments. For almost 1,000 years, the people who were not Muslims were taxed unless they became Muslims. And Akbar started something called religious tolerance, and this made it so they lived in peace. Now, the Mughal Empire also had some amazing architecture, just like the Taj Mahal. But after Akbar, an emperor stopped the religious tolerance, which made the people revolt against the empire, and this is what made the Mughal Empire fall apart. Now, we'll also be going over Section 4 in class, so here are some of the highlights for Section 4. First, Muslim scholars made huge improvements in science, medicine, and philosophy. This guy right here is an explorer named Ibn Battuta who helped with geography. Also, Muslim doctors combined Greek and Indian knowledge with discoveries that they made on their own. They also started the first pharmacy school to teach people how to make medicine, and they discovered how to treat smallpox. And finally, Sufism started, which is a Muslim philosophy that they can find God's love by having a relationship with God. Second, in literature and the arts, Muslim achievements included beautiful poetry, short stories, and great architecture, all influenced by Muslim religion. One famous Sufi poet was Omar Khayyam, and one collection of short stories was The 1001 Nights, which had Sinbad, Aladdin, and Ali Baba. Rich Muslim rulers became patrons of architecture, which just means they would pay for the architecture to be done. Now, mosques had minarets, which are narrow towers from where the call of prayer would come out. The most famous art is calligraphy, which is decorative writing.